Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to my time machine. But instead of using it to remember the good times of Honor, like, Crossplay's first ever implementation that really revived the game, it goes back and remembers the days that every hero mentally aged everyone by 5 years with how bad they physically abused their players. We've done both Knights and Vikings so far, and now honestly it's come to my most hated faction in the series apart from the let's fuck the game up for 2 months faction. This faction has done everything at least once in its life, between game-breaking exploits, direct oversights from feat changes, questionable removal of unique mechanics, and overall meta-defining reworks that made every other hero feel like a shitty downgrade compared to them. Anyways, join me once again in reliving past memories that we buried in the past for a reason, and while you're entranced, I think you want to sub. Anyways, the support I've gotten in the last couple videos is great, and I'm still pushing for that 50k so I can choke my chicken to it at night. It's no surprise to any Kensei main, the last thing they ever expect to see on a single Warriors Den is Kensei himself, other than the opening 2 seconds in that intro.
Hey, that's my shoulder.
Now, I'm all for Kensei love, don't get me wrong. This character feels rewarding without feeling like a busted S tier like Shinobi, Afira, or VG, but not as dogshit as the horrid D tiers like Nusha and Sohei. With Kensei, you really have to work for your kills, and all of them are normally honest kills. The problem really just comes down to every single character in this game getting upgrade upon upgrade that aren't full reworks, but just enough to keep them competing in today's meta. But for some reason, the devs have refused to ever acknowledge the fact that Kensei is kind of falling behind, since he has gone through the entire year of 2024 and 2025 without a single change to his overall kit to benefit him, while other heroes that took inspiration from Kensei are getting blatant upgraded moves. Griffin's forward dodge light attack is a direct copy of Kensei's Helm Splitter, even down to the voice line they say when doing it, but with the enhanced trait. In lore, it does make sense because Griffin learned them from the samurai when he was exploring the world, but you'd think that someone who taught you a move would objectively be better at it than you were. Kensei has some really cool superior blocks, but they are objectively useless in almost every way unless you're using them from your top dodge. Because unlike the top dodge superior block giving you a free guard break and trumping enhanced attacks, Kensei's side superior blocks do absolutely nothing. Not a guard break, not even the dodge attack, not even breaking the enhanced trait on zone attacks, making things like Shugoki zone into side heavy a positive trait for the Shugoki even if you made the corrected defensive read. Then you have Jean-Hu, who released with an albeit pretty bad superior block bash that sucked, but was then reworked to give him unblockable attacks on superior block. Something Kensei would understandably benefit from, but for some reason, they have left him in the dust. Kensei, in my opinion, doesn't struggle, but you can see how there were hero designs that had inspiration directly made from Kensei, but for some reason were just blatant upgrades. Shugoki was the biggest gimmick hero of For Honor's olden times. He was the Sohei of year 1. He was awful, but his gimmick kept him viable. Those gimmicks? Passive hyper armor combined with the one-shot Demon's Embrace. Shugoki, after a brief period of time, would generate hyper armor around his body to tank one hit. Now, they thought they balanced this by making Shugoki take more damage while hyper armor was on cooldown. The problem on paper was Shugoki's would just turtle up and wait for the hyper armor to come back and use it to tank a hit and then guard break in between a hero's hit stun. Now, Shugoki didn't really care about damage done to him because of his biggest gimmick, the one-shot Demon's Embrace. When Shugoki would reach critical health, the next time he would land a Demon's Embrace, he would do so much damage even someone in revenge would not be able to tank it. This would have complete turnarounds where during a hug animation, the hyper armor would do the job of tanking the hit and blowing your back out harder than a white girl on a specific white couch. This left games feeling insanely one-sided and honestly quite boring against Shugoki's. Health ultimately in this game is a resource. Sure, it's better to win a fight while taking less damage, but ultimately in a 1v1 scenario, health means nothing once this fight is over. But with old Shugoki, people would understand that when you were strongest, the lower health you were. And with For Honor's old map system with having so many different walls and obstructions in the way to be thrown on, tied with the old gear system having throw distance be a thing you could upgrade, Shugoki players would actually want to lose health faster to set up the one-shot hug, making fights seem one-sided, but after one mistake, you have actually just lost. Orochi's rework took a hero that is seen as a weeb lover hero that actually kinda took skill to pull off, or some would others say, baby's first light spammer, to one of the easiest heroes in the game, bar none. While the rework had Orochi players happy and every other player extremely pissed off since the hero was on its own level in a tier list, Majority of the disdain from Ubisoft came from taking the clip farming move away from him. Orochi's old deflect was a YouTuber's best friend when it came to montages, and I know the TikTok era of For Honor is up in arms bitching and moaning that a Nova King deflect montage from 6 years ago will always outweigh anything they could ever pull off because of heavy deflect. See, the charm of heavy deflect was it was actually the only deflect in the game that was just not guaranteed, if we forget about Nusha's old deflect. You had your light deflect for a quick option, free damage, but didn't break hyper armor. But then there was the heavy deflect. The issue was that the move was so slow you could dodge away before it came into contact with the player, but this was also the only deflect in For Honor history to be feintable, leading to, as I said, ridiculous clip montages that people were blown away from. The immense hype you'd have generating and having a clip go viral because you baited out some poor player who thought they were getting away with their mistake of getting deflected only to get guard broken mid-dodge, or even worse, getting deflected a second time, was enough to make a grown man soil his pants. The removal of heavy deflect, in my opinion, was unneeded change that only existed to have skill expression and cool clips, but I doubt we'll ever see it come back again. This is something I only found about literally this year. For Honor has a history of feats that were removed from the game due to being too overpowered that there was literally no counterplay. Thick Blood and Warden and Nusha that countered Nobushi, Shaman, and PK's entire kit by making their existence being questioned. You think fighting a hero in Stalwart Banner is pointless while playing Bleed Heroes? Imagine a second feat effect that told you that your offense was worthless. Then you had Rocksteady on Aramusha and Shugoki that negated Highlander Caber Toss and the entire out of stamina throw system. Not to mention the added passive effect of being immune to wall splats, making literally any max punish in the game null and void in the face of, again, another second feat. And finally, Nobushi's Blissful Rest. Let me just play the clip for you. You want to call Phalanx and Umbral Shelter invincibility feats? Well, Blissful Rest was pure, unhampered invincibility, with the only recollection of this feat stating, rapidly bring yourself to full health. This feat killed about 50 to 60 HP every 200 milliseconds. Nothing in For Honor, not even 4 people beating you senseless, had the damage output to kill you fast enough more than this feat could heal you. Shinobi was For Honor's second ever DLC hero, and it was the most this hero doesn't fit feeling I've ever had. We had entire rosters where not a single hero would be called a zoner, aka a hero who basically relied on range attacks and actually sucked at head-to-head fighting. Then came Shinobi, a hero whose entire gimmick was hitting you off screen in teamfights and actually just sucking ass in any 1v1 he was forced to fight in. The biggest issue was his ranged heavy attacks, but not because they were too good. In fact, they were the worst ranged move in his entire kit. Blockable by external, and if parried would knock Shinobi to the ground. The way to initiate a ranged heavy was to hold the heavy button, but it was so finicky that even just tapping the button would initiate a ranged heavy in front of their face. And since this move was unfeintable, it basically lost you the fight immediately. On top of that, you had your quad dash bug, a bug that allowed Shinobi to dodge 4 times in a row by double dashing, charging a heavy, and then immediately dodge cancelling it into 2 more dashes, making Shinobi insanely hard to hit and get close to. To keep going and just for fun, Shinobi's side bash kick had super armor. No, not hyper armor, super armor. The only thing this game has that has super armor is revenge, mind you, so keep in mind that this bash was able to trade with other bashes and come out winning. And finally, the cherry on top, you had Ranged Guard Break, the move that broke monitors. Now, Ranged Guard Break had the same property as Ranged Heavy, where if countered, Shinobi would fall to the ground. This move was a complete waste of time in a 1v1, but 4v4s, this move was made by Satan himself, if, Satan was French. There was really no punish to throwing this ranged guard break off screen since this move had insane range. You just would never be close enough to ever punish. The move had a built-in voice line because the devs realized that a move you couldn't see from range needed some sort of indication it was coming towards you. But either due to a buggy code error or unintended exploit, the voice line would sometimes just not play, making it an unreactable guard break off screen. For a very long time, Aramusha was the king of fast kills, with chain heavies in the 30s without buffs and in the 40s with feats. He held the record for the quickest kill in the entire game. The issue was vocalized after his initial buffs. The community thought they were definitely necessary because the hero since release was completely underwhelming. Things like Ring the Bell, while decently annoying, were an understandable move to be an opener. and the buffs to his forward movement were overall a good quality of life change, and of course the unblockable finisher. But the damage on these buffed moves went seemingly unchanged. Aramusha before his rework had good damage, with the caveat of them being all blockable attacks. When he would gain the unblockable trait, people expected Ubisoft to tone down his damage from these attacks, but they just kinda didn't. For literal months, any talk of Aramusha would be followed by him being a fun character, near balanced out, but his damage numbers being way too high, almost resembling old For Honor's combat system where the average heavy attack was in the 40s. Not to mention him being a hybrid and having the insane perk combos like Last Stand, Vegetable Barrier, and Bastion, making him feel like a hero with literally no downsides. Hitokiri could lose her feet, her hands, lose all motor functions in her body, becoming a walking vegetable in a wheelchair, who was incapable of actually swinging her weapon, and people would still find a reason to dog on anyone who wants to play Hitokiri. I have a running joke on my channel that you should respect everyone in the community no matter who they play, unless it's a Hito player. Even Hito players hate other Hito players. Like it's two cats meeting up and just yelling at each other. That's what Hito mains look like. Hito's entire playstyle is how much are you as a player willing to put up with. It's so blatantly unfun and unengaging. I have asked many Hito players what they actually enjoy about playing Hito, and not once have they mentioned anything about the hero, and just because it pisses people off because even the Hito players realize that this hero is fundamentally bad. Kyoshin has a history of being the easiest hero to gank with, until Virtuoso showed up, because all Kyoshin had to do and still has to do is sit and stance. That's gotten easier to deal with because of the emergency nerf they had to give the character weeks after launch due to having a complete infinite chain with another Kyoshin. The biggest controversy Kyoshin has still exists today, and it's the ability to do the bare minimum in a gank and still win quite easily. The more Kyoshins in one team, the more infuriating their gank becomes. There's one thing For Honor players hate, it's not having their turn to play the game. And the idea of single hits from Kaze cuts leading to 3 to 4 seconds of complete hit stun that can be delayed to lead up to him dropping back into stance again to repeat this process until you either die or a teammate shows up to support you is crazy to ask a player. But since Kaze cuts deals so much damage plus the bleed damage on top of it, with the insane confirmed gank potential, most likely you are dying before your team can even get to you. Now, Sohei has always been the talk of controversy since the day he came out. One-shotting someone with souls they got off of a bot, or your teammate that sucks so bad they overpowered a Dyson vacuum, or the ability to use those souls to heal himself to full health, negating anything you've done to him. But nothing was more controversial than the first time Heralds of Chimera came around with him in the special game mode rotation. For Honor's extremely fun game mode where the one person becomes a raid boss, and the only goal of the game is to kill the other raid boss. This mode was completely and utterly ruined by Sohei's entire existence. A big question before was how much does Sohei's tier 2 actually heal him? Was it a full HP bar or was there a limit to the healing? Well, when Heralds of Chimera came around, increasing the player's health to overall 10 times the regular amount, it was proven that Sohei's tier 2 healed an infinite amount of health until his HP bar was fully replenished. Every single game of Heralds of Chimera had at least one Sohei on each team, where if you had a Sohei as the raid boss for that round, it was an automatic win. Or if 2 Soheis were the raid bosses, it was actually faster to quit and wait out the DZ penalty than play that round out. Anyways, if you don't have a hate boner for the Samurai faction, then I hope this has helped you grow one. As always, love you guys. Hope you guys have a great day.